This is Rob Carbone, and you're listening to BD4.
Here's Barrett from Shake and Bake. Gets a three. Stacks eyes in the crowd with Barrett. 5 on the 24. Barrett previously an air ball. The drive, the layup. That's it home. Gets it back, keeps it out. Barrett for three. RJ Barrett from downtown. Quick trigger three. Gets another triple. Looking for more. Smith to the buzzer. Now it's good. J.R. Smith from way downtown at the buzzer. Nobody could overlook. Puts it in. They're on their feet at Madison Square Garden. Elliott to Ewing. That'll make the Garden war.
Patrick Ewing faced a double team, but still was able to hit.
Finish. And the foul. Easton ducks under. Got it. 8 tenths left.
So I know we did another episode on the Knicks the other night too, but I figured I just give I wanted to add a few things, or maybe just one thing in particular the other night that I never got to add. So I figured we make just an entirely separate episode of the podcast to do so, to talk about Julius Randle. So that's what we're going to dive into tonight in episode 151 of BD4. But what's going on, guys? Hope everybody's doing well. It's your host, Rob Carbone, coming at you with another episode of BD4. 151 of the podcast, episode 151. If you guys didn't check out episode 150, be sure to do that right now, where we talked about, we reviewed the Yankees Braves series that just happened. The 2-game set, the doubleheader set where they lost both, and the Yankees continue to really struggle of late. So be sure to check out episode 150. Pretty much just one giant rant by me on several different issues with the Yankees, but taking a break from the Yankees and going to the wonderful New York Knicks tonight for episode 151 here on Thursday night. It's about 9 p.m. here as I am recording. So I hope to publish this, and I hope you're listening to this and watching this by the time Friday comes around. So yeah, it's going to be about the Knicks and what they're going to do, with Julius Randle this offseason, being that he's been a polarizing subject in Manhattan so far, after they signed him in free agency last offseason. That was their big move, obviously, after failing to sign Kevin Durant, after failing to sign Kyrie Irving, and, a couple other of those all-stars on the market. The Knicks went with quantity over quality, and they got a bunch of power forwards, a bunch of, guys with expiring contracts, but Julius Randle being, the more talented one of that group, and they gave him a hefty contract. So we're going to talk about all of that tonight. First, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Hey guys, really quick, I just want to remind you that if you go to my website at nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com, you can find me on social media. You can find the links to my podcast and my blog. So that's all you got to do. Just go to my website, go to nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com, and there will be a page that displays all of my information. All right, guys, thank you. Let's get back to the show. It's like a friggin' monsoon going on over here. I don't know if everybody else has it on the East Coast, but here in Jersey right now, there's like a big-ass rainstorm, and I think it's kind of the leftover from the hurricane going on in Louisiana, but there's a freaking big storm going on right now. I love storms. I love storms. I love going to hang out in the studio when there's a storm because it's nice and I'm in a little cozy space down here. But yeah, so there's not much going on tonight other than camping down here in the studio, I don't know. The NBA was supposed to apparently a couple of players on the Lakers and Clippers, or whoever it was in those organizations wanted to cancel the season. Um, Not going to get political. I don't like to get political on my show, but fucking, I'm a bit confused here. I don't know if we're getting an NBA season resuming soon. There was news today that they are supposed to resume, but I haven't seen anything on TV yet. Maybe it's gonna happen tomorrow. Yeah, I'm a little bit lost there as far as that goes, but I'm hoping the NBA can get up and going again just to give me something to watch. Um, and obviously the Yankees come back on tomorrow, but it's crazy shit going on right now. I'm not even gonna get into it. um, but yeah, as for the Knicks, man, yeah, listen, Leon Rose has some thinking to do here. As for the episode title right here, Leon Rose has some thinking to do, or the Knicks and Leon Rose, and his new staff that he's hired, and this new front office regime they're trying to go with here. They've got some thinking to do with Randle this offseason. Whenever the offseason does begin, they have to make a decision here. Are they going to continue to let Randle be on this roster, or are they going to try and find a trade partner for him? So Randle's coming off, and I'm rounding these numbers, of season where he averaged 20 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, doing so on 46% from the field, 26% from the three-point line, and 73% from the free throw stripe. Averaged 3 turnovers per game, along with 3 personal fouls per game. And I believe he led the Knicks in usage rate. So the Knicks are paying him, I'd say the average salary here is $18 million per year, on a 3-year deal, but only I think $4 million is guaranteed for year 3. So, and again, the raw numbers are there, right? The 20 and 10 double. The numbers are there. They pop out at you, but you really can't use that as an excuse for him, to back him up and say he played exceptional. To say he played as well as the numbers say is that's just being gullible. That's just reading off of a stat sheet. If you were to back him up using the numbers, that's being just as gullible as the Knicks were when they signed him. He may or may not have maybe helped the Knicks pick up an extra win or 3, but he didn't help them accomplish what their true goal should have been this season, which is rebuilding with the kids and focusing on player development for RJ Barrett, for Mitchell Robinson, and the other young kids, Dotson, Frank Knox, etc. He didn't really help there, and not that Randle is old. He's also young, 25 years old next year, but he's one guy, and one guy shouldn't be focused on as much as Randle was. He's just not a good fit here with a lot of the players we have on this roster that we're trying to develop and groom. Julius Randle doesn't seem like he's fit with a lot of them, especially with Mitch and with RJ Barrett. There's no room to work with a clogged paint. When you have Mitch, RJ, and Randle all sharing the floor together. Randle's a poor 3-point shooter, and he attempts a lot. And then he's often clogging the paint too when he's posting up. So there's not much spacing. RJ's 3-point shooting was very erratic, and a lot of that can be attributed to Randle's style of play. And again, when you put Randle next to Mitch at the 4-5, not pretty, because of those spacing issues as well. It kind of gives you those Joel Embiid, Al Horford vibes. Never pretty. So very ugly at times. Just because of that. So I think, at that 4 spot, guys, I would prefer the Knicks get at least one of a better shooter or a defender at that spot. I don't think Randle should be starting every single day, playing 35 plus minutes a night at the power forward position when he is not a great shooter, nor is he a good defender at all. So that's something that I'm definitely paying close attention to this offseason, with everything that's going on in the free agency, and even the draft and on the trade market too. Um, and we're going to get to that. We're going to touch on that in a second, but yeah, I mean, I would say you need at least a good defender or a good shooter at that 4 spot, and Randall provides you with none of that. And he's also just very ball dominant. That's what bothered a lot of Knicks fans, was how ball needy and ball dominant he was. And you can make the point guard excuse. The Knicks need a better point guard to set him up more. But listen, he played, him and Elfrid Payton were on the floor for the third most minutes of any two-man tandem on the Knicks. And Payton, when he was on the floor with Randle, he would only pass it to Randle. If you're a Knicks fan who's watched these games, you know what I'm talking about. He would only feed Randle. He would force feed him at times, and that just would not work. It would often just lead to a very erratic offense. So you don't love that he's just very ball dominant. He also turns it over. He's always coughing it up. Those stupid post spins he does, coughing up turnovers late in the clutch. He's a good post player. He's got the skills to be a good post player, but a lot of times he doesn't use his head there. A lot of charging into set defenses post roll, when he's supposed to play the screen and roll. A lot of times you'll see him just charge at the set defense, and there's a turnover right there as well. So he's got to cut the TOs down. Just very inefficient for as much as he uses the ball. And again, a lack of vision. This guy, when he's on the floor, doesn't have, the 3 assists were there, but another example of numbers being deceiving. If you watch the game, there are so many times, man, if you watch these games where he's turning somebody like RJ Barrett into a spot-up shooter. RJ's supposed to be a slasher. RJ's supposed to be somebody who can create with the ball or cut to the rim off the ball and catch it that way. But when Randle is on the court with Barrett, he's the one with the ball in his hands, Randle. He's obviously not supposed to be, that playing that role. But, he's turning RJ Barrett into a spot-up guy, which is not what he is. And that's also attributed to why he was so inefficient, Barrett. On the fucking flip side too, you've got these defensive issues to worry about with Julius Randle. Very poor on rotations. There's a lack of focus a lot. The motor is very low when it comes to Randle. Sometimes he often, I wouldn't even say sometimes, I would say he often just dogs it. It's rough to watch. So, there's so many things wrong. Just with the way he plays. It's really easy to just look at the numbers, but I mean, this is a guy who shouldn't be playing point Julius, right? He needs to not play the point guard position, the point forward, whatever you want to call it, in this positionless nature of basketball, and play more of a prototypical big. Play the 5. He played the 5 a lot less than he has, in recent years. I know with the Lakers and with the Pelicans, he played it a lot more. I don't know the numbers. They aren't right in front of me, but fucking Randle did not play the 5 as often as you would have liked. And I think that would have helped him. As big as he is, he could have used his strength more and played more bully ball and played in the post a lot more. And he's a great finisher at the rim, but he didn't use that strength as often as he should have. He was just, it was very often he was just left running the floor when he shouldn't have. RJ Barrett needs more ball time. Alonzo Trier needed more ball time. All those guys. Kevin Knox needed more shot attempts, and Randle stunted the growth of a lot of the young Knicks because of this. So yeah, positioning is a big important factor here too. Playing less 5 with the Knicks than he ever has in his career, I think sucked. And obviously Mitchell Robinson's got that 5 position locked down. But, do the Knicks think about playing Randle off the bench as a 6-man center, backing up Robinson, not pairing them together as often, that would help with the Knicks offensive efficiency. So, listen, I'm not to sound like I'm bashing this kid, but he's a very talented player. He just it's the very poor basketball instincts that he's got, right? And that worries me, right? He's already 25 years old, entering his 7th season next year. So usually at this point in time, guys would mature with their IQ and decision making by then. He's still not there. He's still, that same low IQ player. So I understand he's got the skills, the abilities, and you know, to be this really, really talented player. He'll put up those productive numbers, but he's not a winning player yet because he doesn't make those winning plays as often as he should have, So what are the Knicks going to do? Right? What are the options here? Um, yeah, you could try and find your lead guard in the draft to help him out. To get somebody else whom other than Elfrid Payton to play a proper point guard and involve everybody and also try and increase Randle's efficiency that way. So, if you get your lead guard in the draft, then, I just spit, but you can get your lead guard in the draft, but you'd have to hope it's Killian Hayes or Cole Anthony that falls. That's probably the two best point guards left on that list that could potentially fall to the Knicks. And that's not even a promise. So unfortunately they are 8th in the draft this year. So we have to rely on that, on certain players falling. But that's no promise that Hayes or Anthony do. They are big names for a reason. Yes, Anthony has struggled. Yes, Hayes is more unpredictable than a lot of these prospects, being that he's played internationally. But there is definitely a chance one or maybe even two of those guys get picked within the first 7 picks. So maybe you hope that Tom Thibodeau can fix him. Fizdale couldn't do it. Miller showed his flashes of making him more efficient, but he couldn't really fix Randle overall. So maybe Thibodeau teaches him defense, being that that's his forte, Tom Tibbs. And maybe he'll help him increase his offensive efficiency, by, again, diminishing Julius Randle's role and backing up Mitch at the 5 and not starting next to him. So maybe Thibodeau does something there to help fix him. Or maybe the Knicks acquire shooters around him. Maybe they acquire better shooting wings and better guards and forwards to shoot around him to help space the floor, since he's not a great shooter himself. Instead of trying to fix his shooting, maybe do it, kind of the other way and get some guys around him who shoot better and some playmakers also around him, like I said, to help his efficiency that way, or help the Knicks' overall efficiency. So yeah, those are some things you can do if you would prefer to keep Randle on the roster. Now, if you're like me and you're leaning towards getting rid of the guy, there are some attractive options out there. So trading him is not going to be easy with that contract, but it could happen, again, being that he's got just a 1-and-1 pretty much remaining on the contract. So you would likely have to sweeten the pot a little bit if you were to deal him. And, obviously, though, you would have to acquire a front court shooter to replace him through the draft, free agency, or in the trade market. And there are some options out there that I really am intrigued by. One being Davis Bertans, who, let's see if I can find it on the screen here. Who had a really strong season with the Wizards this past season. And he's always been a good shooter. He's a lockdown guy, but this season he took a big jump, went from 8 points to 15 points a night, and he did so shooting 42% from the floor. I'm sorry, from the 3-point line, nailing 3.7 3-point makes a game. So great shooter, and he's always been, again, a strong shooter. Davis Bertans is a power forward. What is he, 6'11", 6'10" power forward. So that would be an excellent guy to put in Randle's spot at the 4. I would not mind that. Give me somebody who is efficient. Obviously, this would have to, work financially. The Knicks would have to waive as many players as they can, and they do have some of the assets that they signed this past offseason on those cheap deals that they can waive. So it could work. They could go after somebody like Bertans. There's also a younger option, more of a prospect here in Christian Wood, who is a 6'10" power forward as well, who can stretch the floor out a little bit too. He's more of an athletic player who can play down low also, but he does stretch the floor, and he'll hit the three as well. Not at a volume as high as a Davis Bertans will, but 39% on 2.3 attempts is not bad for a young developing prospect. And again, he averaged 13.6 rebounds in 21 minutes a night. So Christian Wood, another option I don't mind. Now, if we're talking draft, we mentioned getting a lead guard in the draft, but the Knicks could also go the route of, again, this is being optimistic and hoping he falls that low. But you could also go find someone like Obi Toppin from Dayton. Obi is a guy I really like. I know my cousin Mike, who's on the show a while ago, really likes him too. But Obi's a guy who has really intrigued me. He's an athletic big, another forward, 6'9", 6'10". And the numbers here this past season at Dayton, another guy who jumped big from his 2019 to 2020 season. Went from 14 to 20 points and went from 6 to 8 rebounds and shoots the three. He hit 39% of his threes on 2.6 attempts. This is somebody who's very athletic too. So not only can he step out and hit the 3-point shot, but Obi Toppin is very, very athletic. He's an athletic freak. Flashes, highlight dunks all the time. And so, that's just another option the Knicks can take a look at there. If they were to be fortunate enough to have this kid on the board so late in the lottery. That's pretty much it. That's just some of my takes on Julius Randle and how the Knicks can benefit, with him still here, or benefit by getting rid of him. You guys let me know what you think. Do you want Randle around still? I know I wouldn't hate it. I just hope that they can do everything they can to make him a much, much more efficient winning player than he was this past season. So, whatever it is the Knicks do decide to do, Randle must not be the centerpiece of the Knicks next season. Okay, so whether that be diminishing his role, acquiring better shooting, acquiring better playmaking, spacing the floor more, or just flat out trading the guy, which may be the best option here. Whatever it may be, he cannot be the centerpiece of the Knicks next season. It needs to be RJ Barrett and Mitchell Robinson. Those guys need to be the focus. They need the shot attempts. They need those high usage rates. It can't be somebody like Julius Randle. Okay, Randle can't be the number one option again. I don't think I can sit through another season of that and watch the young core of the Knicks, have their development slowed and not really grow as much as they should be. It's rough. So, guys, that's pretty much all I've got for this one. Just a short little podcast episode tonight, episode 151, talking Julius Randle. We're going to head to break, and as soon as we get back, we'll wrap things up with the NYYMYK question of the day. Be right back. Hey guys, really quick, I just want to remind you that if you go to my website at nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com, you can find me on social media. You can find the links to my podcast and my blog. So that's all you got to do. Just go to my website, go to nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com, and there will be a page that displays all of my information. All right, guys, thank you. Let's get back to the show. All right, so last time out in episode 150 of the podcast, I asked you guys, the Yankees won 27 World Series championships, but how many have they lost in their history? The answer to that question is the Yankees have lost 13 World Series in their history. That's a pretty good ratio to win 27 of your 40. That's like 68% right there. So the answer to that question, 13 World Series losses in Yankee history. But tonight's question of the day, tonight's NYK question of the day is obviously a Knicks question. How many All-Star appearances did Carmelo Anthony have as a Knick? So how many All-Star appearances did Carmelo Anthony have as a Knick? So let me know the answer in the comments section once I post the podcast, or just DM me on any one of the platforms you see on the screen or in the description. Guys, thank you so much for stopping by. This is your host, Rob Carbone, with another episode of BD4. BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Hope everybody's having a good night, and I hope everybody continues to have a good night. And we will see you in the next episode, which, if all things go as planned, we may have a guest or two on the show. That should be Sunday night after this Mets series ends. And hopefully we can get this series in, with all these protests going on, and hopefully the virus doesn't interfere again with this Subway series. But we'll see. We'll see everything. Fucking that's it, guys. That's all we've got. What will Leon Rose do with Julius Randle? A question that will be on Knicks fans' minds all off season long. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, ciao. This podcast is sponsored by Anchor.